Call this meeting to order, please. Marnie, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Mark Gregg.
I am here.
Councilmember Elizabeth Jolin. Here. Councilmember Henry Rosenthal.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Here.
And Mayor Buddy Pinder.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Marnie. I've asked Mr. McCarthy to lead us in the pledge, please. Thank you, Jim. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Jim. All right. If you guys would bear with me for one quick second, let's have a minute or so. Let's have a prayer, if we could, please. Lord, we thank you for this awesome day that you have made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And we just ask a blessing over this meeting tonight, over the meet and greet. We thank everybody that came. We ask a blessing over to staff, the council, everybody that's here and participating, even those that are participating by Zoom or, watching it online. So anyways, we just thank you for where we live. We thank you for all the beauty before us, the oceans, and just everything. So we thank you, and we ask all this in your precious name. Amen. Okay. So, Evie, am I supposed to start this off? All right. Okay, well, Henry, I might let you say something in a minute if you want to say something about some of the old, I'm going to talk about the history, a little bit of history of Islamorada is what they asked me to talk about. Okay. So, we can maybe tell a little bit about LB and, the cannery and stuff like that. So, anyways, Evie asked me to talk about the history, a little bit of history, not government, but history of Islamorada. So I want to be careful because my family was one of the pioneering families, and I don't want somebody to think that I'm here bragging about my family. Okay, I've got letters that came from my great-grandparents and parents, and they said if that person was living, they couldn't even be talking about, what went on after these hurricanes and what happened. So, anyways, Islamorada is basically a little fishing village. It started way back when. They were farmers, they were fishermen, and they were craftsmen. And, there was a lot of mosquitoes here. I don't know if a lot of us would be here now if the mosquitoes were the way they were when my father grew up. Your screens were black with mosquitoes. And, I've seen them that way, especially up on Card Sound Road in my time, growing up here. But obviously, we know there was a lot more species of all kinds of stuff here, meaning turtle. There's crawfish, which I call them. You guys call them lobster, but I was raised calling them crawfish. Of course, the stone crab, all kinds of fish. Sponging was a big industry here then, and we had a little cannery there, Sid and Roxy's Cannery, that made green turtle soup. They also made green turtle chowder, conch chowder. I could go on and on. It was a beautiful fish market there. Actually, I don't even eat stone crab anymore, or really lobster, because we ate them so much as a kid. They'd cook 1,000 pounds at a time, and you'd be there with a bunch of key limes, and you'd have butter and garlic powder, and you'd, eat a lot of lobster, crawfish, or stone crab, or whatever coming out of there. As my cousin Rich Russell's family was the first family here in, I believe, 1854. I think they went to Key Vaca first, which is Marathon, and then they went from there to here. Our family came sometime, I'm not exactly sure, but 1863, but they used to live on Indian Key. My great-grandfather, who is buried at Chica, Preston Brooks Pinder, he was born on Indian Key in 1875. And that was a big farming community. And at that point, there was probably more Pinders on that island at the time than any other family members. But, so, and eventually, the Flagler brought the train here. I've got all the records from when they put, I don't know how many grapefruit on the train or how many soursop on the train or tomatoes. Actually, my great-great-grandfathers had a packing house on Upper Matacumbe. They were doing tomatoes, they grew pineapples, they grew key limes. This area right here is all part of a pineapple plantation that Johnny Bush Pender owned that lived across the street. So, but anyways, they made do. But it was all about fishing. It was all about, they had to make their furniture. They just couldn't. And like my dad's real mother died when she was 26, I think. He was 18 months old from picking a pimple on her face. They put her on the boat to head to Key West, and she didn't make it. So back then, I think it was from blood poisoning or something like that. I'm not sure. But so the Russells and the Penders were the two pioneering families. And so it's interesting when the Parkers came along. I have this letter right here that when it all took place. The church on the island was where the post office is today. There was a trailer park there, and it was called Land Crab Trailer Park. So when the Parkers came at the south end of Upper Matacumbe, they wanted to move the church further down to make it more centrally located. So at high tide, they floated 2 schooners in. During low tide, they block and tackled that building out. It's a wood building. And then at high tide, they floated it down to where the cemetery, I don't know if y'all got to see the cemetery inside Chica today or not, but and that's where they put the church until the next storm, took it out. And then they built where you see it today, right behind the monument, the Matacumbe Methodist Church. And this letter tells about how that John Russell and Preston Pender went around because they said the district from the Methodist Church said, hey, we're going to forgive you your monthly or quarterly dues that you have to pay. And John Russell and Preston Pender told them, no, sir, we will go house to house, even if we have to put our own wages in for this at the time that, to pay it. And basically then they had like a circuit rider, preacher that would come from Key West. It's all in here, but I'm not going to go on about that. But so anyways, that's part of it. Okay, so now let me back up about the fishing. Was the Matacumbe Club was just south of where Chica is. Okay, and that was for the presidents, the congressmen, the senators, and politicians, I guess, because we never had power. The Penders didn't have power, and when I don't know, one of the congressmen or senators, they shipped a generator to that club, the Matacumbe Club, and they said, hey, Pender, if you want power, if you want to run the wire, you can. So they ran a wire over, and our family, they got power. I can't tell you exactly when, but so, and this community then, growing up in Islamorada and Upper Matacumbe, everybody ate together. I mean, Cecil Keith, Jimmy Albright, all these guides that worked at Chica, all the people, they'd have a fish fry on the beach or have conch or turtle or crawfish, whatever. They had about a 4-foot, but it was heavy community. Everybody ate together. They stuck together. There wasn't any crime here, back then. It was, and you could, other than the Greyhound bus going south, you could go at 8 o'clock and lay down in the highway and go to sleep, So anyways, of course, Flagler, with the train coming in, that changed a lot of stuff. But, it's cool reading some of these old stories because they talk about how they had all the fruit and the citrus that, and they were waiting, they had it on the dock waiting for the train, to come to pick up those pallets. And it says how many crates of key limes, how many, coconuts were going out of here, or how many key limes, tomatoes, you name it. It's really, it's all documented. So anyways, and before that, I will say this, Richie's family, his 5th great grandfather was born in Harbor Island, Daniel Russell, in 1776. I didn't even know this until 2018 when I found my 5th great grandfather, Ridley Ezekiel, who was born in Harbor Island in 1779. So I think Richie and I have been, connected for a long time through the Russells. My grandpa married a Russell. Preston Pender that's married. Catherine was a Russell. So, yeah, pretty interesting. So if Sharon wants to throw anything in, or Henry, you want to throw, Henry's been here probably as long as I am old. So Henry came here a long time ago. If you want to, you ended up buying the Turtle and the Sid and Roxy's Cannery. And so.
Well, I've been here 50-some years, I don't know, 56, 7, something like that. Things were different. I never had the opportunity of being stopped on a highway for drinking, but those of you that had, they brought you home. Real simple. They just took you home. We didn't have the anger that we experience sometimes now. I don't remember anything like that. I mean, it was just a nice place to be. Those of you that may have not visited the monument, it houses a lot of people that are deceased from the 35 hurricane. Just one of the things I make note of. Families for the 35 hurricane were really torn apart. Some of the families of 20, 25 people or more were totally wiped out. There was not much left here. There was a train to come down to pick the people up, but somebody decided it had to be turned around and backed up down here, which took time because I think the hurricane hit around 8 o'clock. And within minutes, the train shows up. So that didn't work out so well. Had they not turned it around, it would have saved a lot of people, no question about that. So that's about all I can contribute. I've just been here. I've been fortunate to have worked my way up a little bit. I'm kind of proud of that for what I've. I say I don't know if I had $1,000 or $500 when I got here, but I went to work that night. That's the only thing I can tell you. So everybody's been very kind to me throughout the years, and I appreciate that. And I've tried to reciprocate in the best way I know how. I'm not going to go through all the committees and all the stuff I was acquainted with, but I did the best I could, still am. And I will continue on with the 3 gentlemen and their wives, whoever gets chosen. I think all 3 of them I could work with, to be honest with you. All 3 of them. So it'll be a very difficult decision for me to make when the time comes, but I'm sure I'm not alone in that respect. So that's about me.
Yeah, I forgot one thing. Did y'all see the library today, the Bernard Russell Fire Department, the station? What is that, Terry, 20? Okay, so where the library is next to that was the old school building. It's a 35 hurricane house. So the Red Cross built those after the hurricane. They were poured concrete, solid poured concrete. So, and the whole bottom of them was cistern. Like I know my dad, all of them that grew up here they drank cistern water. They didn't have any, running water other than the cistern. And the old movie theater where Island Community Church is, that's been there. I mean, we used to go there, and the raccoons would even come in and eat popcorn. We'd go to the movie theater barefooted. So what else? Trying to think. Henry made me think of a few things here. It's just. It's hard to explain the community, and Ted Williams lived here. He loved it. Dick Pope, owner of Cypress Gardens. Many presidents have came here, congressmen, senators. We just had some dignitaries here over Christmas, right here in Upper Matacumbe, So, and they're all the time coming. A lot of times we don't even know about it. So, but I don't know, when you see Secret Service around, you know something's going on. So anyways, Sharon, is there anything you want to say?
Well, my parents moved here in 1950, so I'm not quite, but I am the first conch in my family, so born and raised here, and it is truly a different, beautiful place. My dad's home movies, which now are priceless, but the Theater of the Sea, which is a beautiful place that's been here forever. Back when my parents first came, it was a piece of plywood that they spray painted Theater of the Sea on. That was their sign. So it's sort of funny. We had no neighbors near our family home for 5-10 miles either direction. Again, my dad built our home. You could play football in the middle of US 1 in the summertime, and every now and then you'd have to move for maybe one car. And in front of our house, I was blessed to grow up on the bay side, and just in front of our house on a Saturday, you could get all the crawfish, and they are crawfish, they're not lobsters, they're crawfish. You could get all the crawfish you wanted, conch, starfish, it was I'm very blessed for my childhood growing up here and for my family, and that's why I came back home after college, is because this is me. So it's a beautiful place to live. So
Yeah. And Sharon brought up something, reminded me of something else. Like when we used to live there in Upper Matacumbe, we had it down how many queen angels we'd have to go get, or butterflies, or top hats, or banded coral shrimp, or rose coral to go over to the aquarium, which is right next to the library. It's a liquor store now, but we would sell our tropical fish and then go to Mr. Pete's, which is now Squid Row, and get our cherry Coke and hamburger and French fries. So Mr. Purdue. Yeah, we all used to Mr. Nielsen. Yeah, Edie and Neil Nielsen. So there's a lot of good memories here, and all I can say, growing up here from Ocean Reef to the Lower Keys, even everybody was connected. Everybody was family. It was big community here then. So I still think Islamorada is a very quaint community, and I think we're very blessed. And I'm a little prejudiced because I was born and raised here, and man, I love the place. I wouldn't take anything for growing up here. And we need to protect our environment and protect the marine resources we have here. And yeah, Florida's got a lot of interesting things here. So. All right, so now...
Wait 1 second before you stop. I want to give kudos to Evie, the staff, our legal people today for the phenomenal job you did today, and the delicious lunch that we had, and just getting to meet these candidates and their wives. All of them are really nice people, which makes it even more difficult. But I just want to thank you, Evie, and Kim and Allison for the care and the concern, and your every detail that you made was perfect. So thank you.
Elizabeth, would you like to say anything before we bring the candidates up?
She's not a conch.
Okay, I know. Mark, you want to say anything?
I would just...
I just thought, hey, come on.
No, sure. I'd just like to say it was very well executed, the plan that you all put together here, and it went well this morning, and it was a smooth sailing procedure, and this is, we don't do this every day, of course, so thank you for putting all the hard labor into it and making it work so easy and so well for us, making it easy for us tonight, so thank you.
Yeah, and I hope everybody liked the lunch today that Evie brought in. I thought it was spectacular, the salads and stuff, so we all ate extremely well today. I hope the candidates found it, well too. So anyway, so Evie, I'll let you take it over because you know what how you're going to bring them up, the order and whatnot.
Yes. So this is where we're going to have the candidates introduce themselves so that all of the residents and people viewing can get familiar, and we're going to just do it in alphabetical order. So we'll start with Robert Cole.
Okay, and so what are we doing? At least 15 minutes, right? Okay. Come on up, Mr. Cole.
Mayor Pender, members of the Village Council, thanks so much for considering my candidacy for the village manager appointment and inviting me here to participate in this event today. Staff, I'd also like to recognize that made us as candidates feel very welcome, and we really enjoyed the tour today, very well executed, as has been noted by council. And lastly, I'll acknowledge my wife, Olga, who is sitting in the crowd over there. Just say hi to her as well. So with that having been said, I think that I'd like to give the public a little bit of background about who I am as a person. So on a personal level, I've been married for 40 years. I have 4 boys. My wife and I are very outdoor oriented. We enjoy active outdoor sports, fishing. Since the beginning of January, I've been staying in Key Largo and enjoying the Florida Keys, getting a feel for what it might be like to live with and be in this very special place, Islamorada and surrounding areas. And I'll say we've really enjoyed our time here during the month of January. So from an education perspective, I earned a Bachelor of Science from DePaul University in Chicago in writing and ethics. And then I pursued my master's degree and received a Master of Science in Metropolitan Planning and Urban Affairs with a concentration in public administration. And from a career perspective, I've been in municipal government in about 27 years, 19 of which were spent in a community called Oak Park, Illinois. Some of you may be familiar with it from a historic preservation perspective because they do get a lot of historic preservation tourism with the Frank Lloyd Wright Home and Studio being located there. That particular community has 52,000 residents, covers about 4.5 square miles. They do have a lot of community discussion around development because it is so compact and dense at the same time. The transitional zones between residential and commercial areas sometimes create friction, and that's not something that's unique to Oak Park, but something that I spent almost 19 years navigating, and I bring those skills with me everywhere I go in terms of interacting with residents, businesses, helping to identify and overcome problems and things of that nature. So I really enjoyed my time in Oak Park. One of the key projects that I worked on there was the expansion of the Eisenhower Expressway, I-290. It's a federal interstate, carries about 260,000 vehicles per day through the village of Oak Park, Illinois. And again, that's 4.5 square miles. The Illinois Department of Transportation wanted to expand that highway in 1 lane each direction. And a little tidbit about Oak Park, they are a highly engaged and active community. So when a state DOT comes through and wants to add 2 lanes through the southern third of a 4 square mile city that already has 52,000 people who are very active, it turns into a very politically tense discussion with state officials, and my role in that regard was to be the staff lead. So I was the staff lead on a project that IDOT, Illinois Department of Transportation, valued at over $2.1 billion, and running in parallel, there was a separate proposal to cap the Eisenhower Expressway to form a park and help with restoring the continuity of the business districts that were north and south of the Eisenhower Expressway. That would have added another $2 billion to the project. And when you have about a spare 2 or 3 hours, I can give you all the details on that, but suffice it to say, it involved a great deal of legal, environmental, intergovernmental, and community engagement. So following Oak Park, my children, fortunately, all finished high school, went on to college, and at about that point, so we didn't disrupt their lives, I began looking for other career opportunities. And it just so happened that Scarsdale, New York was recruiting a deputy village manager. So I took on that role and responsibility and competed for the position and was appointed there. I spent 9 years of my career serving Scarsdale, New York. If you're not familiar with Scarsdale, it's an exceptionally affluent New York City suburb. And in that capacity, I was a deputy village manager for 7 years, and I was the chief executive officer or village manager for 2 years as well. And at this juncture, I'm looking to, well, we have already relocated to Florida, and I'm looking for an opportunity to serve here. And I see the opportunity in Islamorada being an exceptional one. First, it really does offer the quality of life that my wife and I have been seeking. It would be a fabulous place to relocate to, that goes without saying. Secondly, I look at the types of challenges that are presented here, and I think that my background, skills, and qualifications would be instrumental in helping to keep Islamorada, this very special and beautiful place that it is, and help to navigate towards a future that is supported by the community and sought by the village council. That having been said, I think there's really three things that I'd like people at home to know about me. And really the first one is, I'm committed to Islamorada. If I'm appointed, I'm going to be here for the long run. I am a person whose career path shows a commitment to communities. I served 19 years in Oak Park, Illinois, and 9 years in Scarsdale, New York. I would hope that my tenure here would be equally enduring. So I think that's critically important to have continuity in the leadership position, because if you're thinking both in terms of short, medium, and long-term goals, if there's not continuity in that leadership position, you're going to have very difficult time achieving goals in the long run. And I know we have a strategic planner sitting at the table, so she's very much in tune with what I'm saying in that regard. But it really is true. You need someone who's going to be here and serve the community, serve the organization, and help the council really work aggressively towards achieving the goals that they established. Secondly, from a public engagement and organizational effectiveness perspective, I'm committed to making the organization of Islamorada the best that it can be. In my career history, I have some formal quality assurance training. I've taken basic statistics, advanced statistics, management of quality. I did that in a business analysis perspective while working for Spiegel Incorporated, actually, before my public service career began. And I've used all of those skills and abilities in each organization that I've served. In Oak Park, Illinois, it helped me move from the initial position I had as a permit coordinator in a building department up to the position that I had when I left, which was an assistant village manager, equal to what one might label as a deputy village manager prior to moving to Scarsdale. So I'm exceptionally skilled in the area of public engagement. I'm open and accessible. I put my direct line on my business card so people can call me, and my cell number. I don't hide from people, and I love to be out in the community and listen. I'm very well trained. I have 30 years of municipal experience, but I don't know everything. And I need to listen to many voices, synthesize that, and bring it back to the table, not only for our staff and myself, but for our elected officials, so that you have a robust understanding of the landscape that surrounds each of the important decisions that you have to make. And then lastly, I have a very firm commitment to legal compliance and ethical standards in the workplace. And everything that I do builds upon that as a foundation. So if I am appointed as village manager, you'll find that I will drive those standards through the organization and maintain them over time as well. So I'd like to open it up to any questions, Evie, if that's part of the plan. Otherwise, I'm happy to grab a seat over here and we can continue.
No, there's no questions.
Very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, for your time. All right, Evie.
All right, and so next is David Couch.
Thank you very much, and hello to all the citizens of Islamorada that may be watching from the TV or the internet. Again, my name is David Couch, and first I'd like to thank Mayor Pender and Council for the opportunity to be here with you today, and also for the staff for the courtesy that they have extended to us and all the work they put into the process for us to be here today. Just to give you a little bit of background about me, I have a formal education. I have a BS in finance from Old Dominion University. I have an MBA from Old Dominion University with a concentration in public admin. I'm also a certified economic developer through the International Economic Development Council. My governmental background, I've worked in local government for over 30 years, primarily in two larger municipalities, the city of Chesapeake with a population of over 250,000 people, and the city of Virginia Beach with a population of about 460,000 people. I currently work for the city of Virginia Beach and as a planning administrator. I'm part of the city's executive team as in terms of decision making. I have an extensive background in strategic planning, land use planning, sub-market planning, and comprehensive planning as part of my background. But to go back a little bit to the city of Chesapeake, I started off in local government, and one of the questions that was asked to me today is, how did you get involved in local government? My dad worked for local government for the city of Virginia Beach years ago, and he was a planner, and he was the coastal zone administrator for the city. And just to touch base too, the city of Virginia Beach is a coastal community. So he was in charge of all wetlands, dredging, bulkheads, piers, and all those types of issues for the city. And it just kind of became part of our family mantra. I mean, we fish a lot, and being part of that protection of the ecosystem has always been part of our family flavor. But when I started for the city of Chesapeake, I started off in the accounting as part of the executive team. I did that for several years, also a budget analyst for them for several years. And then I transitioned to economic development for the city of Chesapeake, and then economic development for the city of Virginia Beach, and now planning. And I do planning administration. So what that means is I have an extensive accounting background. I have an extensive budget background. I've done more budgets than I can count. I have traveled extensively, both domestically, almost to every large major market in the United States. I've traveled internationally quite a bit and doing a lot of business attraction. So as part of the planning process that I undertake is I like to have balanced planning. We always try to have balanced planning. Businesses run the economy for localities or try to offset that, but you want to have good businesses within the community. You do not want it to be cannibalistic of the environmental ecosystem that you have. So good land use planning is always a good piece of everything you do. So those are all parts of my formal governmental background. Now then you would probably ask, okay, well, listen a little bit about you. As I mentioned, the city of Virginia Beach is a coastal community. I grew up there. That is the corner of the Atlantic Ocean and the Chesapeake Bay. I grew up on the water, fishing, diving, surfing. I've done that my entire life. I've fished commercially for 6 years as part of my past. Dove every wreck within, 100 miles of where I live. So we're very involved in the whole water style environment. I've had several boats over my history. I have 2 right now, which I like to sell a couple, but that would be great. But I think, so we're very passionate about Islamorada and the Keys in general. I've been coming down to the Keys since I was 18 years old. I've come down here several times. It's a great place, and it offers all the lifestyle things that we would like to have for my family. I have 2 grown children. My son is in the Army currently in Colorado, and my daughter has just recently bought her own house and doing her own thing. So we're empty nesters, and we have the opportunity to look to transition to Florida. Both me and my wife have worked for over 30 years in our careers, and we're looking for the next thing. And Florida has always been a major attraction for us over the years. Our kids love Florida. We've been there more times than I can count. So that's us as a family. And you would ask, like, what are your goals? Council, we've spent the opportunity to have time with council. Council is very passionate about Islamorada, and the staff are also very passionate about Islamorada. Me as a manager coming in for you, what I would like to do is marry that opportunity up and let the council express through me to staff what they would like. I would work at the will of council, and that's what a good manager does. Council are the decision makers, the managers are the executors. And we want to create, or I would like to create opportunities for council to interact with the citizens so they can hear what the citizens want. And then we would upflow any information that we hear from the citizens to council so they can make good policy decisions. So that's what I would like to offer you, and I would like your consideration for the position. Islamorada is a great community, up and comer, and has a lot of opportunities. And I think I understand what some of the dynamics are and would like to assist in being part of that process. And I'd like to thank you and offer any questions you may have. I'd like to answer those if you have any, which I don't think we do. But thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, and then the final candidate, Douglas Maxiner.
Thank you. Tough act to follow, these 2 individuals, but my hats off to you. I've had several of you apologize for the chilly temperatures that we've had down here. You don't have to apologize to me. We come from Illinois, which is only seems like it's about 3 miles north of the Arctic Circle right now. But we we left Moline, Illinois, Sunday, dark 30. It was about 14 below. Wind chill was 39 below. So I am thrilled to be with you, not only because of the weather, but to talk to you about this exciting opportunity here as village manager. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of deviate a little bit away from the format that they've used. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I started in the profession. I'm going to talk about where I've been and what those community characteristics are, how that might relate to here. I'm going to talk about the skills that I've developed over my career, and I'm going to talk about my personal style, personal philosophy, and then I'm going to talk about some personal information. Hopefully we can fit that in 15 minutes. I'm not much of a talker about myself, but here we go. So anyway, to give you an idea how I started in this, again, somebody asked me that question today, how did I start in this profession? I'm going to ask you to go back several decades, back when I was an undergraduate. I had bushy, wavy hair. I'm not sure what happened, but something happened. I had a professor that saw something in me that advised me to pursue an internship with the city manager's office in Decatur, Illinois. That was my hometown. That's where my father worked as a firefighter. I got that internship. The biggest project they gave me was to put together a white paper on outsourcing, the feasibility of outsourcing street sweeping. Talk about exciting. It was pretty heady stuff for a 21-year-old kid to do that, but so I got it, I dove into it, did the research, did the analysis, wrote the recommendations, presented that to the city council, and only after the fact did they tell me that probably the most influential member of the city council had an interest in a friend of his providing that service to the city. So in the give and take, I got grilled pretty good about my recommendations, about my assumptions, and I gave it back as good as I got, and I was hooked. So again, pretty heady stuff for a 21-year-old. So where I've been, I have worked in communities from 6,500 people with 20 employees all the way up to 150,000 people with 1,100 employees, and just about every size in between. Characteristics of those communities. My first 6 years and my last 6 years were mature industrial communities. We had big city problems, small town budgets. Crime, we had the opioid crisis that we had to deal with. A lot of information, a lot of attempts to fill services, provide services on very limited budgets. So it was very important for us to try to find ways to stretch that dollar and make that work. The middle 20 years of my profession, I worked in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. That was a high growth area. We had a lot of demand for new residential, new commercial, and our goal at that point was to try to keep the development from outpacing what our infrastructure might be, whether that's transportation, that's water and sewer, that's stormwater, parks, schools, you name it. So that was our challenge there. I'm going to give you a couple examples of some of the boards that I worked with to let you know that maybe discord or a lack of agreement on the path forward on a board is not that unusual. I've had unified boards, not very often. There's been different levels of discord. One of those was a community of about 17,000 people, and we had a 6-member village board. They were all very unified, but we had a brand new mayor that was elected that was on a completely different page than them, and they fought like cats and dogs. So my job was to try to bring them together to get them pulling on the same end of the rope, if you will. There was a lot of mistrust. There was a lot of animosity. Over time, we were able to get that done and make some real progress in that community. We had a water project, not all that dissimilar to what you have here. We had a contaminated well. That was one of our sources of water. We had to get water from another source. We partnered with some of our neighboring communities. We got Lake Michigan water run out to that community, and it was a big win for the community. We also were able to disband our 911 communication center, have our neighboring community provide that service for it. At the time, it was very unpopular in the community. We had a meeting in the high school where we had 200 people show up looking for my blood, but we walked through the analysis, the assumptions, carefully, patiently walk through that with them, and by the end of that meeting, I'd say more often than not, they were on my side on the analysis moving that forward. So we were able to get some good things done, and that was very rewarding. The keys for that board, they were all very passionate about the community. Sound familiar to all you folks? They wanted to pursue what was the best for the community. They were all very passionate about it. When you've got that in place, you can accomplish basically anything. You can overcome anything. I have another example to show you that not all of my background is rosy. We had a situation where part of a board turned over, 4 members of an eight-member city council. 4 members turned over, and we had a new mayor elected at that time. Tremendous amount of adversary and animosity among each other, and they didn't appear to have any inkling to try to rectify that. What was worse, I had a very high-performing staff working for me at that time. We were the envy of our region. The new members of the city council had some animosity towards that staff. We were not able to overcome that, and I ended up leaving. It was an unsuccessful tenure for me. I believe it was unsuccessful for the city council as well. But the difference between that story and the one I just gave you a moment ago, my impression was these people were working for their own self-interest. They didn't have the passion for the community and the will to make the community better. They were in it for different reasons. Again, my opinion, they may differ on that, but that's my perception. So just from my perception, I think what I'm seeing here is the passion for the community moving forward. So again, I think you can accomplish just about anything you want to. Skills that I've developed over the course of my career. First 10 years of my career, very much focused on nuts and bolts, making the sausage, if you will. Budgeting, all the same things everybody's been talking about. Budgeting, economic development, land use planning, downtown development, redevelopment, all of those types of things. I kind of cut my teeth and learned those skills and how to function. The last 23 years of my career, as I have stepped into the role of the city administrator or the village administrator or the village manager, I have focused more, I've still used those other skills, but I have focused more on managing council relations. I need to find out how each of you communicate. I need to know what your preferences are for communication, whether that's in person, that's over the phone, over a cup of coffee, via email. We can accommodate all of that, but I need to know how you communicate so that I can effectively get the information to you that you need. To boil all this down, I need to get good information to you folks to make good decisions. I need to get it to you in a timely fashion, and I need to get the same information to all of you so that you've all got that in front of you. That's really the nuts and the bolts of how this whole thing works. So my style, I've got a couple of quotes or sayings here that kind of give you an idea what I'm all about. First one, I think, has been attributed to both Abraham Lincoln and Mark Twain, and that is, don't speak unless you can improve the silence. I'm kind of a quiet guy. I like to observe. I like to read body language. I like to ask a lot of questions, sometimes annoyingly a lot of questions, but that's my method. I'm an information gatherer, so that when it comes time for me to make a recommendation to you, I've got everything at my disposal that I need to make that happen. The second saying, I don't know who said this, but this is probably my favorite saying. There's 2 types of city managers. There is those that are humble and those that are about to be. And that's my reminder that I don't know everything, that I need to be open to new ideas, open to information, and work with you to try to figure out some of those things. So, personal information. My foundations, my father was a firefighter for Decatur. He passed away 33 years ago. He died on duty. But he was one of those guys that when the stuff hit the fan, everybody looked to him to lead them out of that. And that was his subordinates, that was his fellow officers, and that was occasionally, frequently, the chiefs above him. He was that go-to guy. So he kind of set that standard, and I've always tried to strive to that standard moving forward. I've got a grandfather that was a mail carrier for 35 years. I have aunts and uncles that were in public service. My sister was a teacher in an inner city public school, very difficult environment. My daughter is a teacher in first grade in inner city difficult school. So between that and my cousins, we have kind of a background. Public service is kind of in our blood. My wife with me tonight, Amy, we've been married for 32 years. When I met her, she was a physical therapist, practicing. She segued into teaching physical therapy, and now she's an administrator at a community college, which is also a very high-profile position where we are located. So we are no strangers to living in a fishbowl. We can take the public scrutiny moving forward. So again, my wife, my kids, I have 2 adult children. One lives in Wisconsin, one lives in Iowa, and our daughter was gracious enough to gift us with a grandchild 10 months ago, so that's been fantastic. So hobbies, I am an avid cyclist. I don't look like it now, I have my winter weight on. I had 3,500 miles in this past year, and that might be a little light for what I'd like to do moving forward. But if any of you have heard of RAGBRAI, that is the Register's annual great bike ride across Iowa, the last week of July, you ride between 450 and 500 miles across the state. It's always the hottest week of the entire year, 98 and high humidity. It's always an interesting trip, but I've done that twice. I think I'm done with that, but I'm not done riding. Amy grew up in a sailing household on Lake Michigan. We had a boat together for a while, a few years back. We'd kind of like to get back into that. And I've heard some things about some fly fishing down here in the flats that I would be interested in learning a little bit more about. So that's a little bit about how I spend my time outside of work. So again, let me thank you for your hospitality today and through this whole process. It's been very nice to have these discussions with you. I look forward to discussing this with the public tonight and with you all tomorrow. So again, I'm Doug Maxiner from Moline, Illinois, and I appreciate you having me here. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. All right, so are we getting close to the meet and greet now, 6:23?
Yes, the meet and greet will be immediately after you conclude this meeting.
Okay. Kimberly, you have anything you'd like to comment on or say?
No, I think you guys have a tough decision ahead of you, and we're certainly grateful that all these gentlemen have come to see us. And the staff, again, I second your words, everyone's words, that the staff have done an excellent job putting this together. And I look forward to everyone having an opportunity to visit more in the next couple of hours.
Yeah,
So,
we need to thank the chief, Terry Abel, and AJ today for going out and driving you all around. We heard good things at lunch about you, so. Oh, man. Anyways, heard Terry was a pretty good joke teller. Anyway. Huh? He didn't say anything. So,
No, he
anyways.
said he needs another fire truck.
Probably. So anyways, I think that, Henry, you want to say anything? Mark? Okay, well, I guess that concludes.
You all deserve a hand of appreciation.
Yeah, we want to thank you guys. All three of you did a great job. Hey, you made it through lunch with us today. So that was a good time. Good food, good time, good fellowship. So anyway, so this meeting is now adjourned, and we're going to move on to the meet and greet then, unless anybody else got anything they want to say. All right? All right. Thank you.